Welcome to Aunty K's, your favorite radical queer indigenous auntie, bringing you tarot every day. Hello folks, and welcome to Aunty K's Tarot. Here I am in my new space. This is a granny flat, and I moved out of the trailer and into the granny flat this month. It's not quite finished. It's largely finished, and I'm pretty excited about it. I'm slowly collecting furniture. I haven't owned my own furniture in several years, and so it's all pretty exciting. So here I am sitting at my new reading desk, and we are going to get into this. Okay, so today's topic is my favorites of 2022. And so I'm going to go through the books I read that are relevant to the subject of this channel in 2022. I'm going to tell you my favorite. We are going to go through my favorite RWS decks and my favorite Marseille decks of 2022, as well as my favorite major only decks of 2022. We're going to go through my favorite oracles of 2022 and my favorite, I'm going to say cartomancy decks, and that's going to be Lenormand and other decks similar to Lenormand, which I got into in 2022 and just like dove head first. The other aspect of 2022 that changed was I started working on the tarot hotlines, and as far as reading tarot for other folks, I love working on the hotlines. I'm making better money than I made working for myself, and part of that is because I'm not paying for all the apps and services to run a business myself. I'm not spending the time advertising myself in my own personal business and all the apps and sites I have in relation to that to make it function. I set up my profile on the hotline. They take a portion, which, is the money and time I'm not putting into promoting my site. They're doing that. And I'm just working. And I love doing love readings. I think it is a great help to people to be there when their heads are just an emotional mess over something that the world is going to tell them isn't that important, their love lives, and yet their love lives are impacting every other aspect of their life and their ability to function, because our hearts rule us, folks. Our hearts rule us, and they rule how well we function in this world. And so I consider it a great help to help people through that journey that they know is impacting their whole life, and everyone is telling them it shouldn't impact your whole life, but it does. And if your love life falls apart, it will impact your whole life too. I don't care who you are. It will impact your whole life. So this is work I love for that reason. All right. So let's get into all of it. Where do I want to start? Okay. So RWS decks that came in this year in 2022 that stayed in, because, oh honey, I'm brutal. I looked at my deck list before doing this, and in my life, I have gotten over 100 decks. So, and of them, I have 50 decks. And actually, 4 of those decks are decks I'm waiting to arrive. And there's one more deck that I haven't added to that list, but I need to, because I just added it last night. I was watching Juliet Peekaboo Rose last night, and she had a Mandalorian playing card deck. I paused the video. I went and I ordered 2 of them, one for me and one for my 22-year-old who also owns cards. So I'm waiting for 5 decks to come in, which will create 51 decks. Sometimes I know once I've gone through a deck, it's not for me. And that used to take me a couple months to realize I didn't like a deck because initially I was just in love with the deck. I found that right now I sit at a place where I'm trying not to be overcritical of a deck before I've used it for like at least a week. Had it on my work table for a week, and then I'm ready to be more critical of it. But when I'm critical of a deck, oh man, it makes it so hard. Okay, let's get into this deck. So I had ordered Fortune Queens in 2021 and it got lost in the mail and arrived just before I moved from Boulder to Lanark. So I finally have this Fortune Queens, and we're going to come back to that. So that deck came in, and then I reviewed the Tarot Neo-Colonial, and I purchased secondhand Tarot of Life. I was gifted the Sasarobito and the Fifth Spirit. And then I reviewed the Great Lakes and the Spectral Whirl, and I purchased at a local shop the New Moon Tarot. There were a couple other decks. They went out as fast as they came in. All right. So how do I feel about these decks? I had waited and wanted and lusted after the Sasarobito for what seems like a while, several years. That might make sense. And I got gifted it. And I really like it. It's a little bit stiff. But I don't reach for it as often as I thought I was going to reach for it. But what I was gifted at the same time and had a surprise fall in love with was the Fifth Spirit. And I don't know if who follows the maker of the Fifth Spirit. I don't know who follows the creator of the Fifth Spirit, Charlie Claire Burgess. I hope I said that right. But they are currently making a Gay Marseille, which I'm super excited about. I expect it will be fabulous. This is a pip deck. And folks, if you're afraid of pip decks, like, try the Fifth Spirit, because these pips are exceptionally well done. And it's a really diverse deck. It's very racially diverse. And that is so, important to me. This card is just gorgeous. And it's a deck I unexpectedly fell in love with. And it is I think this is a category I'm struggling the most with, like, what to choose. The Tarot of Life is also a pip deck. I just suck at trying to show you guys these the right way up. It's also a pip deck that is so super incredibly expressive, and I absolutely love it. This and the Fifth Spirit are both on linen, which is my preferred cardstock. And that may also, look at this Three of Cups. At 47, this is currently my favorite Three of Cups. I'm not these ladies yet. I guess that they're who I now aspire to be. Although as a Lakota, I'm probably never going to be that gray. You know, because I'm still waiting to go gray. Yay! Lakota jeans. But, you know, I'm going to be a non-gray haired old granny without grandchildren, because in this age of like climate disaster, late stage capitalism, and ongoing colonial and neocolonialism and imperialism, my kids don't want to have kids. Imagine that. Imagine. These decks are decks that come on and off my work table. We've got pips all over the place this year. I reviewed the Spectro Whirl Tarot by Benjamin Allen Simon, and this deck is like my rainbow wet dreams, and I'm absolutely in love with it. And even if my work table has drawers, folks, my new work table has drawers, so even if it's not been on my work table, I can just reach and pull it out for a reading. And there is the Great Lakes Tarot, which is available at Belt Press. And I grew up on the Great Lakes. I live north of them now, but the landscape and plant and wildlife is the same. This is an area, the area north of the Great Lakes is just dotted with lakes. Like you can hit a lake every 15-20 minutes. Everybody lives near a lake or a river. And so this is a landscape that I know and I live in. And I really enjoy this deck. I enjoy the keyword list that's online. And I kind of feel like it could have just been printed on the bottom of the cards. And for a deck like this, that would have been helpful. So I do love that deck, but I don't always use it for readings. The Tarot Neocolonial de la Americas by Patrick McGarth Muniz. This is intellectually my favorite deck, and I don't use it a lot, but I have been reading the guidebook this year, and this deck is in like with my indigenous decks, which includes the Lamback Tarot, which I made, and it includes Mari's Gentle Tarot, and this is a deck about my reality. It's just the southern side of the story in the Americas. For indigenous folks, it has lots of white people, because in this story called History, white people play a dominating role, and Patrick McGarth Muniz shows it no holds barred for what that role fucking is. And this deck isn't necessarily appropriate for the work I do. Although there's times I pull it out, like past life readings. A lot of you don't want to know how often you show up as these people in your past lives, but the truth is a lot of yous were these people in past lives, and you know, we would all do a lot better in the esoteric community, the spiritual community, if you would admit to these aspects of your past lives and who they really were. I love this deck. Matoka, who white folks call Pocahontas and changed into the Lady Rebecca, which killed her. Matoka, who was captured and raped as a 13-year-old child, married off to an old, bald, licey white man. Yeah, y'all showed up with lice. These weren't attractive. Like, you can see the emotions this deck elicits about the past and the present. And so it doesn't really make it appropriate for me to read for other people because, you know, but it's, this is going to go down as one of my most prized decks. Okay, so of all the decks I received this year, the Tarot Neocolonial de la Americas, over every single one in all categories, is going to be my most prized deck. And my favorite RWS deck to read with 2022 is Fortune Queens. I've been loving this. It is useful as a clone while being hilarious as a clone, on point as a clone. I love drag. I love drag queens and drag kings. And during the pandemic, the best way to partake in drag was RuPaul. I hate RuPaul. He's a racist colonial ass. That's who RuPaul is. He's racist. He's colonial. He owns extraction on indigenous land, which he makes millions off of. Like, I don't care if he's black. The dude is white. And as a man who is directly making millions off the colonization of my people, I feel more than entitled to say that about RuPaul. But and I hate that, like, he exploits these drag queens, but I love these drag queens. I love these drag queens. I didn't know how I felt initially about RuPaul being the Empress, but let's face it, folks. There's plenty of queens, like the one who just died. You know, Queen Elizabeth, Queen Victoria, who are effing colonizers. They're effing colonizers. I don't care that they're women. They're effing colonizers. They're at the top. At the top. Because of that, I sort of view the Emperor card in this deck more as the prince, like the Empress's husband who can't have a title because she's in charge, so he's just like the prince below her. That's how I see the Emperor in this deck. That's how I read this deck. I love this deck. It's candy for my eyes. That's, you can still see the gilding on it, but like, it's worn because I use this deck a lot. So, well, Tarot Neocolonial took the overall category as my most prized deck. The Fortune Queens Tarot, which is by, I keep saying, and Eat My Cake. okay, which is by Juano Cristiano, is my favorite RWS deck of all the fabulous decks, RWS decks I got this year. Oh, I didn't go through this one. Okay. I'm currently using the majors from this deck, which is the Sun Moon Tarot. It's my least favorite. I love the pips in this deck. I love the majors in this deck. But I do not like the quartz in this deck, and I'm just going to take a minute to show you why I don't like the quartz in this deck. Get it? That's why I don't like the quartz in this deck. And this is probably a deck I would have raved about and loved as much as the other pip decks that came into my collection this year. If the quartz had more attention given to them, I would probably use that deck a lot. So there we are. All right, let's hurry up. Whew. So let's do the other tarots. I got two majors only decks. The 2020 Visions by Crystal Banner, which was gifted to me at the end of last year and came in around the beginning. And the Sapphic Enchantress Tarot, which is by Ashi Murayeshin. And this is like a super indie deck. And I got it at a local shop called Windershins, which carries both mass market and indie deck. The owner of this shop puts effort into reaching out to indie deck creators and getting their decks in. It is like hand cut. It's hand cut cardstock, and the details are super, super fab. Everybody is also super, super hairy. And this is amazing. We're going to look at Crystal Banners next. I like Crystal Banners, but like this blew me out of the water. I also got the Femina Marseille Majors only deck, which is a rare deck, and I think I did do a video on it. I was super disappointed by that deck. It is it's Orientalism in the 21st century. So it did not stay. This is the guidebook for the Sapphic Enchantress Tarot, and I only just took it off my table since getting it. So it stayed on my table throughout November. It's an amazing deck. And 2020 Visions by Crystal Banner is also an awesome deck. I do pull it out on occasion, but I mostly used majors in past life readings. And I keep a set of majors on my reading table for when past life readings come up in, at work. And the modernness of 2020 Visions makes it weird for reading past life readings. So I enjoy this deck, but I don't use it as much. And this deck, I'm just all over the moon with. So ordered at the end of 2021 and coming in 2022 was the Triumphi del Luna Paradoxical Purple. I got the like full set with all the extra stuff. I find this deck fun, cool, creepy. It took me a moment to get to learn to read with it. I wanted a non-white deck that for Marseille just fit the bill. I also wanted to learn all the tiny little specific details in Marseille, and that this deck didn't fit the bill for that. The decks, the Marseille decks I have just don't fit the bill for that. So I ended up accepting that, and the Marseille deck I am making is going to do what the decks I've chosen to own don't do. So I enjoy this deck, but it's not my favorite. It was torn back and forth so often on Marseille decks this year, and so in November I was like, I'm ordering a deck, and it was really between Tom Benjamin's Marseille deck, the Tarot Sirene, and the Feline Marseille. And it took me all month to decide which of those three decks I was going to get. And like, I was looking at those three decks like 2 or 3 times a week, almost hitting the buy button, not. And, you know, Google and Amazon could see what I was doing on my phone. And so they kept suggesting that I get the Marseille Cat Tarot. So as I spent like, you know, 27 days looking at 3 particular decks, I ended up getting the mass market Marseille Cat Tarot, which finally came in yesterday. And I had a great time using it for my readings last night on the hotlines. Am I holding this upside down? This is so ridiculously fun. Oh, I'm always creeped out by, you know, all the various apps, be it Google or, you know, Amazon, for knowing what I'm talking about, you know, in a car, or what I'm looking at online, or everything. You know, it's creepy, folks. It's creepy, but like, also, you were right. I love it. And you know, it's super easy to shuffle. And that was part of like, you know, what I was really struggling with the other decks. I was like, will I enjoy the cardstock? Tom Benjamin's is still on the list for that. Like, oh, I don't know. This is just so ridiculously stupid. I love it. Thank you for spying on me, Google and Amazon, this time. Creepy motherfuckers. Okay. So, Oracle decks. I got Unlock Your Magic by C.O. Keller. And I use it sometimes. It has affirmation cards and contemplation cards. And I don't use it a lot because it's not visually exciting. And I got That Feeling When by Lisa Tula Penrose. And it's pretty cool in its concept. But it wasn't working for my personal reads. And so I get really nice envelopes and cards, and I choose an oracle card from a couple of my decks, and this is one of them. And I write a message I'm called to write with it, and I put it in, and I sell these for like $5. And this is one of the decks I've been doing this for, and you know, folks love it. So I feel this deck is a win, even if that's not how I first saw using it. And I've been using some of my decks like that. I also got the Rockstar Oracle. And this is by Sarah Stassi. And it has been pretty fun. I have used it on my work table, and that's been pretty fun. This is a lot of fun, and I'm caught up between whether it's going to stay on, coming on and off my work table. I don't use Oracle on my work table a lot. It's rare. I'll sometimes put an Oracle on and then for like a couple days and then take it off, or I'll put it on for a week and use it, have like one day where I use it. I've been using Songs of the Grandmothers more, which might lead into me using my other Oracle decks more. But I think this is a pretty fun deck, and it can be really good for nailing a sort of feeling or where someone is coming at things from. I also got the El Camino Oracle, and this was a review deck. This is by Sabina Espinette, and I really do enjoy this deck. It's bold, it's colorful, it's cultural, it's in there with like my indigenous decks. It's a deck that for me is like a personal deck. And I really like this deck. And for Solstice, so I got it at the end of last year, beginning of this year, which meant it really couldn't go in like my wrapping up videos last year, I think. I don't know. Or it wasn't fair shot, is the Morning Calm Oracle by C.O. Keller. So I'm Lakota. This deck is Korean, and yet I feel like my ancestors really know how to use this deck to talk to me. I think the spiritual, cultural aspect of this deck is so strong that my ancestors feel at home in this deck. And, you know, for other folks with, you know, spiritual, cultural backgrounds, I recommend this deck because it will speak to you across like the differences. I think a lot of us have more similarities to each other on a spiritual, cultural level than we do to whiteness. I think that's what I would say. If you come from like I think my ancestors love me using this deck. I think yours will too. So this is absolutely a personal deck. And it's going to be one of 2 favorites for this year. So this is a favorite on a personal, spiritual, ancestral level. And then we have Songs of the Grandmothers by Kara Simons and Mari in the Sky. Mari is an Indigenous artist and deck creator, and Kara is a settler creator, and they teamed up for this absolutely gorgeous deck that has been on my work table since I received it from them. I received it as a gift. So this has what an oracle deck needs. Let's get one where will stand out well for you. Here we go. It has the title, Grandmother Spider. Its keyword, which is creativity. And then it has a short summary of what is in the guidebook. Permission to make, spin your threads, your web create everywhere you go. So the guidebook, of course, has a whole lot more, but this is like a summary of it. So easy to use. So this is a deck that brings me joy, and one I am working with very regularly. So I've got two favorites for oracle decks this year, but they're really different favorites. Even though I consider this Indigenous via the art, like this is a work deck for me, and I'm really happy to have an oracle deck that I love using for work. And this is a super personal, spiritual deck for me and is a favorite for that reason. All right, folks, we are on the final stretches of this video. Cartomancy decks I got this year. So as I was about to start on the hotlines, I decided to grab the G-Witch fortune telling cards. And it was so perfect for hotline work. I couldn't believe it. It was just so perfect for that. It helped me figure out how to read it pretty quickly due to its setup. It is not in line with other cartomancy decks, but it opened me up to the decks I would end up using the most on hotlines. And it also prompted me to be like, I need a deck to use that isn't that. And so I created Demore's Fortunes. I printed it at MPC. It is available there. I think I might upload the design on a different cardstock because I don't know if it's just because of using it so much nearly daily, but the printing, like the color, is badly damaged in this deck. It's coming off. I don't know if it's just like, I love linen cardstocks. I have other linen decks. They aren't doing this. I don't know if it's because I didn't use them nearly as much as I use this deck, but so if you like the G-Witch Oracle, this is just a modern version of that. And you can use that. That's what this deck is. It is a modern version. The wording is slightly different, but it is based off the G-Witch Oracle. So if you love that deck and wish it was something else, Demore's Fortunes, it's available at MPC, but the color printing isn't great. If you want it, be like, Krista, please get on it and upload a new cardstock, and then I will. I got the Tea Leaf Oracle mass market deck. It was ridiculous. It had like 200 cards. I've pared it down significantly into like the 50-60 card range. I use this sometimes. It's really a pretty good read, and it has plenty of card options in here that make this more compatible than a lot of decks for queer readings. It just did. And that might just be my interpretation of it. Teapot, deep friendship with someone of the same sex. I guess we can all interpret deep how we want, but you know, teapot, yeah. So this is a fun deck. I don't use it a super lot, but I quite like it. I got this Sibylla Oracle cards. It is the Low Scarabeo set. I don't use it a super lot. It's really feeling based in a way that like I can use, but is tricky. This is going to sound weird as someone who does love readings, but I'm a scoop survivor who was raised in an incredibly toxic environment by people who didn't adopt an Indigenous child because they were anti-racist, but adopted an Indigenous child because they were racist. And so, you know, there's damage there on an emotional level for me. And I don't feel things the same way most people do. And I think that's actually what makes the Sibylla cards kind of tricky for me. So I don't use them a super lot. It's also an all-weight deck. So we also know that that is not my deal. I don't enjoy all-white decks. I know people are going to say, well, you know, where this reading style comes from is white, but newsflash, they've had BIPOC folks in their lands for centuries upon centuries. History's not as white as Europe likes to make it. So, bullshit on that nonsense. I got the Healing Light Lenormand, which comes with 2 sets of people cards. So you can do them as you like. I love the art on this deck, but you need a massive table because they are oracle card size. But the art. So I love this deck. I don't use it very much because I don't have room to do a reading like that with them. I got the Dreaming Way Lenormand artwork by Kwan Sheena and written by Lynn Arju. I don't know that I'm saying that last name correctly. So this is a Dreaming Way Lenormand. And I think based on the artwork, the artist's name, I was expecting, I think I was hoping for BIPOC folks in this deck. I was disappointed. I do like the art in this deck, but I don't use this super much. Yeah, I don't use this one a whole lot. I got the Maybe Lenormand by Ryan Edward. Again, it's an all-white deck. It is called the Maybe Lenormand because it's got Lenormand and then it fills in the rest of the cartomancy cards around the Lenormand. It works really well. I enjoy having the cards up here, I discovered. I found that really useful, especially when it came to the courts. I liked the art on here, despite it being like all white background. The people are all white though. And I was so disappointed because like they're so nicely drawn. Like, they're so nicely drawn, but it was an all white deck. So I was like, man, I want a deck that like fits. I got gifted the Curious Cats Club, which is a cartomancy deck with cats. And I was like, oh my goodness. I love this. So this deck came in and I was like, shit, I have an animal deck I really love. And then Songs of the Grandmothers came in, and then, you know, my cat Marseille. So, I really enjoy this deck. It's by Stasha Burrington, same creator as Assassin Abito, and I use this deck quite a lot on my work table. And then I found the Rana George. So Curious Cats became my second favorite cartomancy deck, and Rana George became my first favorite. Rana is a Lebanese deck creator, and she made this Lenormand deck with a couple extra cards, such as this one, that then don't have the cards in them because she didn't assign something. I love the extra cards Rana George includes in this. I love the art in it. I love the guidebook that tells us why the art's there, what it means to her. The Lebanese landscape is based in, it has 4 people cards as well, 2 modern and 2 old, fashioned in dress. And I decided to consider it 2 modern and 2 culturally dressed. And I chose the culturally dressed, folks. I think this deck is just gorgeous. I really enjoy it. It's so colorful. It's my favorite. It's a mass market deck. It wasn't expensive. And I love it. It's one of my favorites. It is my favorite. So it's one of my overall favorites of the year, and it's my favorite Lenormand deck at the moment. Probably for a while. Who knows? Okay, so I got some books that I read this year. I got the Oracle Creators, The Modern Guide to Creating an Oracle or Tarot Deck by Stephen Bright. It was a gift for folks in Indie Deck Review from Liminal 11. I don't know that we'll be getting more such gifts after one of their creators attacked one of our reviewers at Indie Deck Review, Havana of Sparkle Divine Tarot, as well as other deck reviewers. And Liminal 11 kind of swept it under the rug, which pissed a lot of us off. So I don't know if we'll be getting more. Don't care. It was a pretty good read. I think if you are creating your first deck, it is a really good read. It's pretty informative, but you could also just do this research on your own online. I got this secondhand. The World is Your Oracle by Nancy Vetter Schultz. And I'm loving this book. It's just about how the world outside is your oracle, and it talks about how how oracles were read a lot just out there in nature. So it's pretty awesome. I got Secrets of a Psychic Counselor by Sheila Haidt. I'd read Sheila Haidt years ago, and so I was like super pumped and excited to get this, but it maybe wasn't exactly what I thought it was going to be. I was gifted Elemental Divination, a Dice Oracle by Stephen Ball, and I love it. And I've been keeping dice on my Oracle table ever since. I think these gifts arrived in September. I think arrived in September, and I've been using dice on my work table ever since. Esoteric, from a historical perspective, I got Magic in Islam by Michael Muhammad Knight. He's a settler convert to Islam, and has had some ideas that, you know, cultural Muslims haven't always agreed with. He's described on the back as Islam's gonzo experimentalist. He's both praised and disliked. And a friend asked me to read it. Not sure what it was going to be. A Muslim friend asked me to read this, and I have. And it's actually a historical look at how magic has fit into life historically, within the context of Islam. Magic as Islam appeared on the religious stage, and it's a historical look at different views of magic, and it's historically fascinating. It was suggested to me by my friend who wrote the book Anarcha Islam, official title, which is Islam and Anarchism, and that is by Muhammad Abdu, and it is spiritual on a different set of things. I lent it to a friend who's reading it right now. It's spiritual anarchism, in how to live and conceive and work towards an anarchism from a spiritual mindset, which is amazing and eye-opening. And I totally asked people to read it. And I said I was going to interview Muhammad, and I am. It just keeps getting pushed back by life. But we are. So, whole new divination system. Loved it. Elemental Divination, Dice Oracle, I recommend. Understanding divining out in the world, in your everyday life. The world is your oracle. My top favorite esoteric book I read of 2022. I know this was super long. I'm probably still going to be long even when I'm done editing, but I hope everyone enjoys. I will see you all later.